Hello, welcome to Dirty Little SQL. Today we're going to be doing test data in SQL Server. I have a complete script of everything I'm going to show you today. It's on GitHub. You can find that at the link below. So let's get started. Here's the table that we're going to try to create test data for. And this commentary on here is just trying to show what I want to have in the different columns. So, how do we create this kind of test data without having to manually type it in? Right, we're going to start with a CTE, a common table expression that creates some rows. 4 rows. Not exciting yet. But what you can do with CTEs is you can build them up. So, our next CTE, we're going to take this and we're going to multiply it by itself. And we're going to slap a row number function on here that is going to essentially just turn out numbers for every row. Here we have 16. So we keep cross-joining and we can get a lot of data out of this, or at least a lot of rows. So here, this many multiplications, we end up with 16,384 rows. I could have kept going and added more if I wanted to get up to 1 million, 2 million. But 16,000 at this point is going to be good for the demonstration. So, how do we take these rows and turn them into real test data? We're going to use a random function. So we're going to take the value of the row number function and use that as the seed in the random function. And let's take a look what this looks like. Alright, so this isn't exactly what we want, but what we can do is if we want to get random numbers out of these random numbers, we can probably just move the decimal place down and chop off the whole portion. So that's what this next SQL will do, is it just takes the random number and it multiplies it by this large number, which is moving the decimal place over, and then this is just going to chop off the whole portion of it. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so this looks a lot better, a lot closer. This is great if we want to have random data. Of course, this random function is deterministic, so if you run this twice, you will get the same numbers over and over again. Okay, but we just want it to look good when we're done this data. So here we go. The next step is to take and make some more numbers that at least seem random to relative to each other, relative to the rows around them. So we're taking the random number from this CTE. We're going to build up another CTE. And here I'm going to get a set of numbers where I multiply by a large prime and use the mod operator to get a number between 0 and 99. And then we can use those groups, or we can use the random number up here, and the source number, which is essentially the number really that came out of the row number function. Okay? So let's take a look at this. So we have the source number, our random number, random floating point number, and then some groups of 0 to 99 numbers that look pretty good. They look, there could be some patterns in here, but in general we have a pretty good distribution of numbers. It doesn't look like there's any obvious patterns here. So now, how do we get this into actual data matching what we started with, or what we want right here? We're going to use a case statement in the next CTE. So I've wrapped this number grouping generator into a CTE, and I'm just going to start using that, random groups, and I'm going to use a case statement here. So this little distribution case statement here lets me get records at a certain kind of distribution. So in other words, I don't want a lot of headquarters. I want maybe 5% headquarters. So from 0 to 4, if the group A number comes between 0 and 4, this will be headquarters. If it's between 5 and 20, which is roughly 15, range there, 15%, then I'll get a division, and then the rest are going to have higher percentages. So this lets me distribute out the random set of data in a distribution that matches what I'm looking for. And then what I'm doing here with this is going to be the seed for an org ID owner record. So each organization record that's generated out of the CT is going to possibly have an owner. But if it is a headquarters, I want it to not have an owner. So headquarters are at the top of the tree. Divisions, I want the divisions to be underneath headquarters, and I want satellite, outlet, and warehouse to be underneath division. The GitHub script that you can find the link for below has all the logic for making sure that happens. This doesn't actually take care of it in and of itself. I have some additional SQL that we run after this to straighten that out. So you can see that in the GitHub script if you want to take a look at that. So these other case statements are essentially take the number, multiply it by a prime, do the mod based on how many I have here, which lets me select throughout as it goes down through the rows, generating rows. It'll select one of these regions. This will select a performance, and then to create a date, what you want to do is like pick a base date and then use this date add function to add a certain random number of days to it. And the mod here will become kind of your range, 0 to 7299 number of days added on top of this base date, so that you can have that span whatever many decades you want the dates to span, or you can keep them in a smaller range if you want. And then here we're just saying, I'm not even using a mod operator here. I'm just saying multiply this random number, which remember this is a floating point number between somewhere close to 0 up to close to 9. I mean close to 10. I mean not 10. I'm sorry. Between 0 and 1, but not reaching 0 or not reaching 1. And so really what it's doing is it's essentially taking a percentage of this, and then I'm saying that I want to at least have 3 plus whatever this comes out with. So let's take a look at what this churns out. So you can see I've got staff here, I've got established dates, I've got performance indicator regions, and I've got seed owner, org ID owner. This is going to become the org ID, and this will become the possible owner, and then I have some SQL in the GitHub script that will shuffle these around to make sure that they have the right owner. So if I were to find, say, for example, 111 in here, if I look for 111, it is another satellite, so that's not really correct. What we want is satellites to be owned by divisions, and that's what the SQL I have in the GitHub script does. But this is good for the purpose of showing this technique where we build up a set of CTEs to get our test data, slap it into our created temp table, org, and throw indexes on it after the fact. Here we go. Run that. Put some indexes on it. Take a look. It looks just like the previous run. And here is a little piece of SQL that shows the distribution. So you can see headquarters had a much smaller number of rows. Division was next higher, and then outlet, satellite, and warehouse were much bigger. So that's about it. That's the technique. We use this number table technique at my work for a bunch of other things, which I'll probably post some videos about using number tables like this to do other things in the future. But this is a pretty good technique to get some test data if you want to play around with indexes, query plans, recursive CTEs in the case of self-referencing tables. So that's the technique. Thanks for watching.